Well, I'm going to bring up your first image that I wanted to uh, kind of discuss. Since we're talking about Everest, obviously, this is one of the images that I picked from your portfolio, and I think it's one of two that I remember kind of like jumping out at me. And I mean, when I first saw this image, and I can't remember which year exactly that I saw it, I thought it was like an advertisement for North Face. It had that kind of feeling
Yeah.
about it. And it
Yes.
kind of just blew my mind when, I met you and learned about your story. And as we said, we're pretty much the same age. And to learn that you'd been up Everest and you'd been taking pictures up there, it was just like really amazing. I'm always fascinated by other photographers who work in, different places, different ecosystems, or extreme places where, the way that you work is very, very different. So for me, I've worked up on the Tibetan Plateau many times, but I've never been up to Everest Base Camp, or you've obviously climbed up Everest. So, I mean, what is the process that goes into, shooting up there in such an extreme environment? On one hand, you're thinking about your expedition, you're thinking about your safety, and completing that specific mission, which requires your focus and attention. But at the same time, you're trying to make really powerful, strong images that, like you said, tell the story about your expedition. How did you balance that at the time?
I I think at that point it was quite a bit of practice.
Mhm.
I was quite a an experienced mountaineer at that point. By the time we went to Everest, I was already going through seven Himalayan expeditions as a climber.
Wow. Okay.
I was 25. I was 25 years old when I summited Everest, so
Mhm.
I wasn't exactly inexperienced. What I was also doing, I was juggling my role as a photographer and a
Mhm.
mountaineer at the same time. And in some ways, I was a mountaineer first because this wasn't an assignment where I undertook as a photographer to
Mm.
follow mountaineers. I was actually a mountaineer with a role as the team's photographer. But by then, I was really serious about possibly embarking on photography as a career, and so I really undertook a mindset shift in how I wanted to approach the photography, how I wanted to approach the regularity of how I shoot those photos. So I actually brought
Mhm.
100 rolls of film with
Oh,
me
wow, really?
onto, yeah,
100.
100 rolls.
Amazing.
100
I love
rolls
it.
of film onto Everest. It was a 3-month expedition, and I think that my ultimate goal was that I wanted to make sure that the photos were well taken.
Mhm.
It's a record of my team's journey, possibly to the top of the world, because you can always plan for it, but you can never guarantee summit success.
Yeah, of course. I often tell, student photographers that you have to, adapt to the conditions that you find yourself in. You can't always plan things 100% on assignments or when you go out to take photos, but this is an extreme example of that. You really can't, predict, the situation day to day, can you?
No, you can't. And in some ways, like at that point, yes, I do agree that it takes a very different balance in terms of um, um, extreme nature and
Mhm.
trying to, be safe and then trying to take good photos at the same time. But later on in my career, as I encountered a lot of conflict photographers and war photographers, which I have tremendous respect for. It's like,
Mm.
how do you go through that and still focus on making good frames and good moments? Like,
Yeah.
like to me, that feels almost impossible. But I think, in a way, mountaineering photography has that without the human drama.
Mhm.
Like the dramatic setting is the mountains, which can be dangerous, but the humans themselves in the mountains are generally trying to help one another in
Yeah.
reaching the top. And so So I think that that balance was something I really enjoyed. It was something I discovered that I didn't know I have the skills for, but it was good.
And I think this image and some of the other images that from Everest, they show that just what you said. You know, it's not that conflict between people, but it's this relationship between people and nature. And the, you know, in this image with the small tent being lit up from inside, I presume, by someone shining a
Yeah.
torch, maybe, perhaps. And
y-
then you've got a
Um.
little trail there, maybe someone walking past as well. But it's about that relationship between, you know, people
mm,
and nature that I
Yeah.
really like.
I mean, just to correct you, that's not a North Face tent. That's a Mountain Hardwear tent, which still exists
Oh,
as one of the top extreme mountaineering brands. And
we
so
are
in a way, this
neutral to all brands of tents on this
they are
podcast.
all good. They are all good. And so this is actually our campsite. This is our
Okay.
campsite, and if you see right in the middle of the picture, that's the Kumbu
Mm,
Ice Fall, which is really famous
okay.
because that's where the ice seracs are, and that's kind of the first obstacle you have to pass as you go from base camp to
Mhm,
Camp 1. So this picture is taken at the altitude of 5,600 meters,
mhm.
and Everest cannot
Amazing.
be seen from here. Everest is kind of like blocked by Nuptse, which is the peak on the left,
Mhm.
and so once you kind of like go over the ice fall, go over to Camp 1, that's when you can start peaking Everest. But yeah, this is an image that I'm proud of. I think this was taken during film days again, so um,
Again,
there's no
showing your
way to
age,
check.
Stefan.
Yeah, but this was an image where you take and you can only develop the film 3 months later. So
Yeah.
you
Do you,
have
I don't want to sound like two old guys, middle-aged guys, but do you miss that a little bit? Or do you like the instancy? Because I often
um
encourage young photographers to, you know, from time to time, not always, but to, you know, go and get a film camera, take a roll of film. Don't take photos and then wait a month before you look at them.
yeah,
It's
I I don't know. I really love the digital world today.
mhm.
Um because I don't think we would learn as fast in a film days period,
Yeah,
because I
good point.
saw I saw for myself what it takes to make it in the commercial career
Mhm.
with a film setup, and it takes so long to learn. Whereas I think once we're in
Yeah.
the digital age, you become a curator instantaneously on your own images, and I
Mhm.
think this is the reason why we are seeing very young people burst onto the scene with a very mature, very sophisticated look, and I think
Yeah.
that's because of the digital trends. So in some ways, while I kind of like have nostalgia over the photos that were taken in film days,
Mhm.
I don't really miss it. I kind of enjoy the digital world that I live in right now.